Welcome to the Self-Aware Solopreneur podcast. I am so excited to have you listen in because this podcast is for people who are transitioning careers in their 9 to 5 or maybe stepping into leadership and trying to figure out who they are along the way. We will also have a lineup of industry guest experts who are contributing to making significant change in other people's lives. We will be diving into topics such as burnout prevention, how to own your superpowers, building mental resilience, and so much more. Every other week, I share insights, tips, and strategies about self-awareness, conscious living, better decision-making while building meaningful relationships. Now, if you feel disconnected from your authentic self, but have this genuine desire to do better, then tune in as I aim to heighten the level of awareness so you can create a path to living life on your terms. Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming to a brand new episode. I have actually my very first guest that I'm really excited to bring on to the show. And we've been connecting for a while there. I think we go back to on LinkedIn, having found each other on LinkedIn comment through the comment section. And I have to thank our mutual friend, Gus, who actually connected us. So those of you who have no clue who I am the founder, creator of the Self-Aware Solopreneur, working with female solopreneurs and professionals who are in that transitional phase or maybe figuring out their next move in their career or business and helping you navigate both business, life, and professional so you can create your zone of genius. So thank you, everyone. And I am going to introduce my next guest. We have Katya is a global connector, often collaborating with professionals, and she does two things really, really well, which is do change by breaking the biases, and number two, make impact by considering the greater good. For 10 plus years, she led the marketing, operations, technology, and human resources efforts at a national disability organization. She left the corporate world in early 2022 to be the artist of her own life with the vision to empower people to live deeply according to their true character and purpose. So as a founder of the Deep Coalition in November 2021, she went on a 15-month pro bono journey to address some of the COVID-19 business challenges. This commitment contributed to 1,000 plus hours of webinar group and one-on-one training and expressive writing, social selling, digital marketing, IT infrastructure, and productivity management. Whew, wow, that's a mouthful, my friend. Welcome to the show. You. So without getting too much into the details quite yet, I want to know, how did you even get into this Deep Coalition movement?
I'm going to have to say everything starts from personal experiences for me. I would have to say I started becoming deeply serious with life when my sister-in-law was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And that was just when COVID had started in that summer of 2020. And through her, I started witnessing her life being drained away. And it really, really taught me so many lessons of how I could be more intentional in life, how I could be more authentic. And I just started looking at how. I focused on how more than what, where, why, and when, because I knew that if I had answers to how, I would be able to live deeply. And it didn't have to be deep, great things. It just meant that I could be a deeper human being. I could be a deeper colleague, a deeper spouse, a deeper mother, a deeper entrepreneur. And so when my sister-in-law had passed in the summer of 2021, it broke my heart. It broke my heart to, for the first time in my life, deeply see her die in front of me. And it's really different when you go to funerals and you see dead bodies or you see it on TV, people dying. But when you actually see someone you know and you love die in front of you, the last couple of minutes, their eyes turning white and crystal clear gray here and there, and they're just trying to suck what's left of life. It scarred me, it
Yeah.
pained me, and from that moment, I made it a personal commitment to take action with how I wanted to impact my life and the life of those around me, whether it be employees that I would serve, or customers that I would serve, or leaders who I report to. It didn't matter. I wanted to define what deep meant to me. And so from there on, I decided that, you know what, it's been a wonderful journey working with so many talented individuals and executives and consultants and financial advisors when I was still in the financial services industry. So for those 10 years, I had really sought out skills that were basically transferable skills. So from IT management to, mentoring and teaching people about self-confidence and self-love, to helping people with IT, how to better use emails. And you know what? Don't worry about zeroing out your inbox. You don't need to do that. And here's
Mm-hmm.
a better way of doing it that would be just as efficient but more effective. And so I started looking at all the different departments that I would manage, from HR to IT to finance to marketing and sales. And I thought, you know what? 10 years of doing all these different functions, I think I've gathered enough intellect, enough skills, enough experience to now form a global movement. I wasn't really thinking about forming what type of company, LLC or nonprofit or for profit. I first thought of the change that I wanted to see in this world, the change that I wanted to see for my kids before I died. And so I thought, you know what? It really makes sense if I would just start a movement and call it a movement and make it a true movement. And so, because I love to connect with all types of people who are like me and who are not like me, those who love me and those who hate me as well, in
Mm-hmm.
very good ways, I thought that by finding a way to merge the divide. We hear that a lot. So I started defining, what does that mean? Does that mean that I now have to be dedicated solely to AAPI? Or does that mean that I help my friends out with Black Lives Matter? Do I need to really pick a group, or can I be everywhere at once? Just like in that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So that was actually before that movie came out. I had that idea. And so I decided that, you know what, I'm going to find a way to open what deep means. Then I thought, you know what, since my name stands for keenly aiming to inspire you always, and my sons' names are Stark and Lex, and they have their own acronyms, I thought Deep also deserved a name acronym. And so to me, it took me, I think, a minute to just think about it, and I came up with do exercise empathy proactively. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that do makes a lot of sense because it's about taking action, and exercise is about taking it a step further and not just listening, but doing something as you become a good listener of people's pain points and challenges. And then empathy, I think we all understand what that is, but not all of us feel empathy. So if you look up, just Google what is empathy, it'll tell you two parts of empathy. And that definition is to understand and to feel. Most people today are still trying to work on trying to understand. But what we really need is how to help people feel what it means to be poor, feel what it means to have no support, feel what it means to have no voice. And so I thought, okay,
Wow.
now what's next? So next is to be proactive. How can we be proactive with our empathetic actions and thoughts? And so that's how I formed the global movement name, Deep Coalition. And
Mm-hmm.
coalition, I'm a big definition person by nature. Just anybody can Google what coalition means. And I really like that word because it's not an association where members sign up, or it's not a club of any sort. It's organizations and people, just all types of things and people coming together and doing something. what it means to belong together. And so deep coalition,
Mhm.
that's what it means to me when I had put those two words together. And then I thought, you know what? It was around my birthday in November 2021 that I woke up one day. I have this tendency to wake up with ideas, so I don't really sleep with ideas. I just wake up with it. And I thought, you know what? I've been thinking about this since my beautiful sister-in-law had passed last
Mhm.
summer. Now I need to come up with a strategic plan. How can I get people to listen to me and hear me out without calling them out or without just throwing content out there that I can find from anywhere that's like on social media templates that you can get for free? So I thought it's my birthday and I want to be intentional. And so I want to give back to society. And so that was when I decided that I would start my pro bono journey.
Mhm.
And what that meant was, okay, well, I can do digital artwork. Let me find a few hundred people that's already in my LinkedIn network, first connections, and let me just draw them. Let me just pretty them up, men and women. And so I started just spending 30 to 45 minutes drawing each person and gifting it to them for the
Mhm.
holiday seasons. And they all really appreciated that because I would let them know you can use this for marketing. You don't even have to reference me. It's my gift to you since you're my first connection. And just really being thankful that they were allowing me to be a part of their community. And so I did 300 or so hours of that, giving away 300 artworks to my first connections. And then I thought, you know what? On top of that, let me also do some webinars. Let me do some webinars to train people on how I would like them to interact on LinkedIn, on how it could be more meaningful and be more result driven. So, yes, we all can market. We all can go to market, as I tell my kids. Piglets go to market all the time, but let's do it in a way where it serves not only us, but our mixed audience. And so instead of just focusing on prospects and clients, let's take a look. Who do we have in our network? We maybe have friends, family members, co-workers,
Mhm.
and also peers of just inside the industry and other professionals that we have no intention of doing anything with, but let's actually find a way to communicate
Mhm.
with all of them. And so
Right.
I thought that I would train them on how to navigate LinkedIn and how to study these people by first not just waiting for them to appear in your feed, but actually saying, you know what, Humera, I
Mhm.
connected with you 6 months ago. I think I'm going to try to do something with you. I'm going to try to date you online. I'm going to try to show you support.
Mhm.
So maybe I can't do it every day, but maybe once a month I'll pick up a couple of new people that I've never talked to online and just go and comment on their post, thoughtfully comment, and maybe share a couple more ideas on top of the advice you're already sharing in your post. And then maybe send you a message on a holiday that matters to you. Maybe it's a religious holiday if you're a Jew person. And so I would teach people all these things about online relationship building, which can really lead to more deeper networking and really lead to deeper connectivity. And so, as I was training them and doing these webinars, I started connecting with more decision makers, more C suite people. And at the same time,
Mhm.
I didn't want to become that celebrity that only focused on the higher income class or the elites, the privileged. I wanted to remember where I came from as a person who was poor, as a person with an immigrant story, as a person who really had to break stereotypes and biases. And so I made sure that I was showing people through my post that I'm talking to
Mhm.
janitors. I'm also talking to executive assistants and nurses, and I have police officers, law enforcement, and politicians, and just all
Mhm.
kinds of people that I'm still mingling with because that is the power of trying to connect at the human level is without regard to specific niches or specific occupations. And so, as I was demonstrating, that was a big thing in me is that make sure that I can not only talk the talk, but to
Mhm.
walk the talk and demonstrate it online.
So that's really interesting what you said about, which was going to have me ask you the next question, which was around this idea of like niching, because you hear that a lot, right, on LinkedIn, how you need to hone in your niche and you need to define what that is. So it's really super interesting where you're coming from. And earlier you said something about I had to define what deep means to me before someone else tells me what that means. So I find that super intriguing because most of the times I've come across when I talk to people is that they've already been defined by somebody else before they even got to define what they call themselves or who they work with and all that. So I find that side super interesting because there's no right or wrong. It's how you see the world and how you want the people to see through your lens. So my question to you is that how do you facilitate or how do you even create that belonging when there's so many facets of who we are and we come from all different types of backgrounds, knowing that we're not even going to get into the race and religion part because that's just adds another layers of complexity, but dealing with so many different kinds of personalities. So without you defining that part, how do you get them to belong?
So I tend to have a mind that looks at what we have in common more than what's different. And so even between you and I, at the surface, we're women. At
Right.
the surface, we are not privileged, but also at the surface, we're educated. We've both been schooled. But then I would look past that and look at the dimensions of being human. So to help other people feel belong, I really look at the other roles that they don't talk about. So, for example, there's a lot of literature about how millennials get along with millennials and people who are younger than them. But I actually really get along well with baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
because I really see that, you know what, maybe they are 20, 30 years older than me, but they were at one point a father, and maybe today they're just a grandfather and no longer playing that big role as a father, but they're playing two roles. And so I would look at those kind of roles. We're both parents. We have both actually maybe been hated, or we've both been bullied, or we're both very into helping people to develop stronger personalities. There's bound going to be something that you find about other people at that human level that we're trying to strive to. Because at the end of the day, you strip all of those cosmetics, we're
Yes.
human.
Yes.
And so we all go to the bathroom. We all know what spicy food tastes like. We all have had diarrhea. We all have seen people who've been sick with
Maybe
COVID.
not the spicy food. I don't know.
Yes.
I had to reel my husband into eating more spicy foods, and so
It may have took a lot of effort.
it did take an effort. Yes, so we have to blend between the Norwegian culture and the Indian Bengali culture to kind of
Yeah.
merge and say, hey, you know what? We can come in the middle, right? We can be in the middle.
And if it's not spicy food, I'm sure we've all had upset stomach. It doesn't have to be spicy food.
Yes.
So I will always find a reason. I will find a reason, not an excuse to say, you know, that's true. Maybe you never had Thai chili pepper because that to me is super hot. That is hot, hot. It'll burn you. And maybe spicy to them is the typical bell pepper that you
Mm-hmm.
find at grocery stores. But I would always try to find what's more in common and go back to the feelings. Have you never felt nervous at a job interview before? Have you never felt rejected before? Have you ever felt loved or unloved? And so just knowing how human somebody is, that makes me feel super comfortable. And I hope it also makes them feel comfortable to approach me. I was on a call yesterday with someone from Japan. And when I messaged him, it was amazing how he just replied back saying, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I have bipolar disorder. I have this and that." And I thought, you know what? Wow, he must feel comfortable to tell me this. And I don't know what his reasons are, but when I got on the phone with him, he said, yes, he felt comfortable. He actually doesn't do this. He was very comfortable just telling me what disabilities he had because he didn't feel that I was the type of person that would judge him
Mm-hmm.
or question.
Hmm.
or try to find out how did you get these disabilities. It was just to me, okay, it's part of your bio or it's part of who you are. Okay, what do you want to talk about? And
Right.
so to me, belonging at the core is about finding what it means to be human. And what it means to be human to each one of us is different, but there's only so many different taste buds and feelings that we experience. I often tell my kids, what do you see in this picture? Hate, anger, what's the degree of anger? Now, there we go. Now we start talking deeply. What's the degree of pain right now as you're sick from 1 to 10? And as adults, I think we start to lose grip of those dimensions as we start to live life and earn money and pay bills. But it's all about the different layers and different dimensions of being human. And if you find that in other people as they're writing about themselves or they're on a webinar and you can tell that they're cringing or you can tell that they're stuttering, you can sense what they're going through. And when you're able to connect with them at that human level, you
Hmm.
can help them to feel like they belong. And maybe you're not having a conversation to solve anything, but at least we belong and we're trying to just have an authentic, honest conversation,
Hmm.
whether it goes anywhere, whether it's business related or whether it's just personal to say, hey,
Right.
I just want to say hi. But you're making them feel comfortable. And I think that is the key to belonging. And it's a process, it's a progress. An example is also with employees. You can't just one day, because of what happened with COVID, suddenly decide to sign up for a training workshop and pull all of your employees into a room and train them on how to be empathetic.
No.
Yes, yes, they can all sit in and listen, but I don't think you're winning their will. And we want to win people's will, their willingness to do it. You can mandate it, but it'll go off the radar pretty quick. It's not going to be part of behavioral change. And so, best you do is, you know what? If you encourage your employees to express who they are,
Hmm.
encourage them every month. Maybe they can drop something in an anonymous box and just say, this is how I feel about HR's work, or this is how I feel about all these team meetings. They don't even have to put their name, but allow people to express themselves and slowly do that before you pull them all together into a serious workshop where they're ready to fully listen, embrace on how to take steps to show empathy towards coworkers and customers.
That brings me, when I used to work at corporate, I remember this very vividly, that keep your personal matters at home. Don't bring your personal issues to a work environment. And when I left the corporate environment, I realized everything we do personal is intertwined with our professional lives. And we cannot simply just say you need to be separate and be the person that you're at home, not be the person at work, when our personal lives constantly influence and impact who we are at work. So I kind of want to get your thought on that because you talked about feelings a lot and having empathy, and yet we still see the gap, right? We still see that there's room for improvement in terms of how they express themselves at workplace. And I believe that having these very conversations right now between you and I are the ways that we can ease some of that. What do you think
Yes.
about
Oh, Myra, I have so many thoughts. I think I could write a whole book on that. So, to me, everything is about demonstration.
that?
You
Hmm.
have to demonstrate that you have empathy. Just knowing the definition and attending a podcast is not enough. Also, taking a poll and survey is not enough. So, for me, back to being in the corporate world, I may be one of the very few who really was the same person at work as I am at home. I'd come home and my husband would say, don't you tell me what to do, and don't you write it up on a list and print it and put it on the fridge and give me a deadline. But
They,
after being married for 10 years, he is very thankful that how I treat my employees and how I treat him and my parents, it's pretty much the same character. We may act differently depending on situations, but I am the same actress that I am at work and at home. And so by that, for example, is I'm going to listen to my Asian music in my office, and I'm going to not listen to it in a headset. I'm going to turn it on, but I'm not going to turn it where it's so loud where it distracts other people, where at least I can hear it within a feet from my desk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to put on headphones just because it's Indian or Chinese music. So I'm going to do that, but I would do that, and I would be like the only one doing that. Or I would bring in Asian food and I would eat by myself. I didn't need to
Mm-hmm.
invite everybody and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to bring egg rolls in. So whoever wants egg rolls, let me know. I'm just going to bring one egg roll for myself and have it for my usual lunch. And that's okay. Or I would sometimes just
Mm-hmm.
call my parents when I'm on break and we would
Mm-hmm.
speak in our language, and I would not feel embarrassed. I wouldn't close the door. I would maybe close it a little in case we were talking too loud, but I wouldn't try to hide that part of me. And even when I'm in meetings and I'm talking to leaders or
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to people I supervise, I would still express my thoughts, such as, well, I don't really agree with that, and here's why. But I wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
saying it in such a manner of, well, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. That's not how the book taught us. We should follow the book because the author is a New York bestseller. I would say, okay, let's try that. But I have a different idea. Can we do both? So I would find a way to just kindly, politely insert
Mm-hmm.
myself, and my thoughts and my feelings into the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I was literally, I think, one of the very few or the only one to
Mm-hmm.
do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not that I didn't care. I did that because I wanted people to know that it was okay to speak out, but it was not okay to bully, or it was not okay to call somebody to embarrass them. If I was going to disagree with the CEO, I don't think I would do it in front of everybody. I think I would say, okay, let's think about that and let's talk after after this meeting. So to me, it's, when it comes to empathy, you really have to practice it as a person. You really have to show your true self. And being the same person is so important. I think maybe you've seen some of my posts, whether you're at work or at home or online or in person, you should strive to be the same character
Mm-hmm.
and strive to carry the same personality wherever you go, because that way
Mm-hmm.
you are working towards the same synergy, and you're not, okay, if you're not breaking it off saying, at work I want people to see me as a leader who is kind, but at home I'm mean to my siblings because they always come and take stuff out of my pantry. They never grow up, these siblings of mine, and they're adults. Should I call them out and tell my parents when they're all in their 20s and 30s? No. Let's have a talk about how, now that you live by yourself, you should not drain my pantry, in a joke way. But being the same character and being consistent is really important, because then you're being the same example, the same role model. And people will respect you for that, whether it's your family or your employees. And if somebody actually sees me somewhere, I'm the same person. They're not going to see me at an event where I'm a different person than I am at work. How embarrassing would that be? Where, let's say,
Right.
I'm at an event where I don't support Black leaders, right? But online, I'm talking about I support Black leaders. More of them should get into executive roles. But I'm at an event where I'm saying diversity doesn't matter. It's all about skills. Now, that is being hypocritical. So to me, it's so important to be true
Mm-hmm.
all the way and everywhere.
It,
And it's really not even just personal, it's just
yeah,
representing who you are, and you have to take it to the heart at all times.
that what you just said, I don't see that applies only to workforces, right? And workplaces in general, but also how I see people conducting businesses. Sometimes they will say things. We see things, whether it's on a digital marketing material or online or website or something, and then you speak to that individual, and then you're like, wait a minute, what you said does not even remotely reflect what you're doing or what you're saying. there's a level of trust that kind of moves back and forth. Think of this like how it lowers and then it increases and then it lowers and increases. So you're playing this volume constantly with the trust, and it's never consistent. So I think of it that way. And so many businesses operate in a way where it's like, I said what I said, but I don't need to check or evaluate my actions, whether they match or not. So,
Yeah.
have you found that working with organizations or entrepreneurs?
Yes, yes, so many. And I won't call out names, but I'll call out examples.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I would say leadership. The chiefs of an organization talking about how they care about their employees. And when they talk about that,
Mm-hmm.
I am going to look for proof. I'm going to look for proof on how they demonstrate how they care for their employees. I would look at their benefits because they always post job openings if they're a large company. And the
Mm-hmm.
benefits are the typical group life, disability. But
Mm-hmm.
where are the other things like
Mm-hmm.
work schedule flexibility or
Mm-hmm.
mental health services or discounts or reimbursement for continued education, right? Where are those other things? So, yes, I'm going to look for proof. And so, what I would also see, for example, where organizations, no matter what size, they would talk about, we care about our employees, they're like family. But yet, when they post pictures,
Mm-hmm.
it's, to thank HR for doing this, to thank the leaders for helping them
Mm-hmm.
to get the workplace top 10 in the nation.
Right.
Uh, but I don't see tagging employees that's not in leadership, or I don't see them taking pictures with the nurses and also writing about them and commenting on their posts. And so I'm looking for actionable proof, and I don't see that. All I see are the glamorous stuff, the awards, the being on the list, and that's
Mm-hmm.
repetitive over and over and over again. Or
Mm-hmm.
like we visited the factory that makes our materials,
Right.
but then they would post about that, and they take a whole bunch of pictures with these employees at the factories, and a whole bunch of strangers would come and applaud them. I'm one of them. I go and applaud just like everybody, but there's like nobody commenting that's the factory workers, or they don't even mention these factory workers' names. Maybe they're not active on LinkedIn, but that's okay. But I think if you mention their name, that's showing action. That
Absolutely.
John Doe, you thank him for working, you
Right.
know, making shoes for the past 30 years in assembly. So show me that. But what I hear is the Chiefs hitting their 20th, 10th year milestone, the company grossing this ABC amount. And that's all good stuff. I think we still need all of that, but I want to hear and
Mm-hmm.
see
Mm-hmm.
mixture of employees' voices and their names
Mm-hmm.
and the acknowledgement. So that's the kind of proof that I think are reasonable and meaningful to do immediately. And so, at the end of the day, let's be realistic. If you're a CEO, you're really busy. But also at the end of the day, you're a CEO. We know and we saw you post the 100 books that you want to read this year. So then we also know that you have time to have interactions and short 5-minute conversations with employees that you've never met, or prospects and customers that you've never met.
Right.
So you have time. You can just prioritize it, make time for it, and be intentional. To me, it's really telling. I can really see through the cracks, and it's not to blame. This is not a conversation about blaming, but it's just to say,
Sure.
I think they know it, but everybody's doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But can they not be the type of people, the type of leaders, the type of employees that just look past the trends and just stop and think deeply and saying, you know
Mm-hmm.
what? Yes, Katia has a point. Let me just do the audit. Whenever we poll our employees, right, and we're asking on ways we could help them to feel more like they belong, what do we do
Right.
with those results? From what I see from all those studies that I read online,
Mm-hmm.
we just publish them as statistics and facts. But there isn't a lot of plans to do action with, maybe 10% said that I would love to that we can pick a holiday that we want and maybe celebrate that together as a company. Or I would love to see if the company, if they can't pay me this year, pay me more, can they at least help me with daycare expenses when they can pay me more? Or maybe can they offer some type of food assistance or rental assistance? Money is number one.
Mm-hmm.
That's what employees need. They go to work, they're selling their work
Mm-hmm.
for money. So we know that if we give them more money, that'll help solve so many of what they need. But also, if we can't give them money, then let's look at the polls and surveys on how we can help them to feel like we're listening. So maybe we can help them with the daycare. We can help give them education by subscribing to LinkedIn Learning, right? There are so many ways to take action that maybe, yes, our company isn't doing well and we can't give everybody raises. So maybe, yes, all leadership can take a pay cut and give it to all the employees who have never had raises in the past couple years. There are so many ways to be creative.
Well, okay, so we can talk forever on that because there's so many thoughts that comes to my mind and I'm like blown away in terms of like how many suggestions, how many ways you have illustrated right there for leaders to be able to create that space, that opportunities within the work, within whether it's workplaces or within the business. Like I said, I wish we could continue this conversation forever, but at some point we're going to have to come to an end. We have just a few minutes left, and I want to ask you this one last question, which is it's amazing what you're doing, and then I can see the vision that is so strong and it's so potent in terms of how you want people to collaborate with you. So, where do you see this going in terms of future and your how you see this in terms of uncovering in the next 10 years or so?
So it goes back to the vision of Deep Coalition. So 10 years from now, I want to see that divide. I want to see it slim down. And so by that, I want to see the Harvard professors with the community college professors getting the same certification, the deep certification, and talking together on webinars that's not divided because they're not Ivy League or they're Ivy League colleges. I want to see a webinar where a normal average employee is talking about success in a fireside chat with the CEO. I want to start seeing all of that coming together. So I don't know what that number is, but I'm doing the first webinar in April where I represent the average person. I have a college president. I have a CEO of an association. I have a CEO of a company. And these are all three big guys.
Wow.
But yeah, they're doing a webinar with me because maybe I really feel that they do see this vision of, wow, this is the next thing. We're now moving beyond empathy and taking action. We're now moving beyond just saying all these high concept topics, and we're now taking little
Mm-hmm.
steps
Mm-hmm.
over the course of 10 years.
Right.
And now, 10 years from now, if I go back and I look at the transformation of, let's say, a typical organization that joined Deep Coalition's global movement, let's say you join today and you have 100 employees. Well, 10 years from now, all of your 100 employees are going to have deep voices, whether they're with you or not, some may not. And they're all going to be influencers that want to create deep connections. They're all going to be micro influencers that have a diverse community on LinkedIn, that it's not just on topics that they like, but also not just prospects and clients, but people that are different experts to help them also grow in knowledge and other types of wellness. And so I'm really going to see the transformation of the organization, turning from the powerhouse of just the typical board with the whole company of everybody being the superpowers in their own way. And it's so powerful to see, whether you're thinking that it's corporate brand reputation or personal brand reputation. But if you can see that, from day one to the 10th year, 100 employees transformed, living more deeply, better taking control of their career. If they did get laid off, well, that's okay because I've learned throughout these years to build my own community. I have HR people. I'm a better communicator. I have a strong voice. I'm a stronger listener as well
Mm-hmm.
and a stronger reader. I know how to have a conversation with anybody, no matter if they're the CEO or janitor. So you can see the multiply effect where it's now no longer just the C-suite people, but everybody is strong and everybody is growing personally and professionally and also growing the organization as well as they all become these little powerhouses that elevates their entire community, their personal community, their workplace community. And so that's the transformation that I definitely want to see 10 years from now. If I just pick one organization up that joins this year, I could go back and just be so proud. And I think, at the end of the day, I want my kids to be proud and see, well, mother, because you started this, even though you didn't do everything by yourself, you started this. And a lot of people are really living deeply. They're actually able to better take control of their destiny now, mother. And so I'm so proud of you. I may not win any awards, but on that 10th year, when my son graduates from college, I want him to see those results and where he's going to be ready to step in and also be transformed and be with the new world, with that new world.
I know you commented on my recent post. I talked about compelling vision. Folks, this right here is a compelling vision where you can put it out there into the universe and you can start to see how people gravitate towards that vision. So what a beautiful concept. What a beautiful way of explaining that how you want to not just be a role model for your children, but be able to demonstrate, that's your word, demonstrate what's possible. So I adore that. I absolutely dig it. Thank you so much for bringing that conversation here today. I know that once people listen to this podcast, they will be able to look at the show notes, go to your website, and see what you have to offer. So I'll put it all out there. So don't worry if you're worried about how you're going to get in touch with her. I'm going to lay it all out there. So with that, I think we're going to end this episode. Again, thank you so much, Katia, for joining me this first interview.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me, Humaira.
You're the first official interview person that came on show. So I'm extremely humbled, feeling humble. And also the fact that this very first interview is about those deep conversations and having the deep relationships, which means so much to me. So thank you. And I will see you all next time. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. And if you want to check out free resources and information on each episode, where we share every other week tips and strategies and insights, you can find the show notes, downloads, and whatnot by visiting to my website, www.humairaakhtar.com. And again, if you find these episodes valuable, where it's adding meaning to your life and it's up-leveling your well-being and increase your self-awareness, please don't forget to leave a review for this podcast. Your ratings will also help other listeners to spread the word. Until then, please take care, and I will see you next time.